They're driving a dusty stretch of road along the Mexican border when Marlowe tells his assistant, Alder, to pull over. Marlowe speaks with the clipped command of someone who has rehearsed urgency. Alder kills the engine and slides from the car, feigning mechanical trouble as instructed. Marlowe stays behind the wheel and watches the military camp across a rise, the light catching on cactus and wire like tiny warning signs. A helicopter thumps into view. Soldiers unload 9 bodies and carry them into the base. They place them like quiet evidence beneath a canvas awning. Marlowe watches, the kind of attention that reads detail, not pity. A brief exchange confirms what the soldiers already whisper. They found these bodies in the forest. No identity, no explanation. The scene holds a single, terrible question: who did this? Then the story steps back 8 days to the thing that started it all. 8 days earlier flight. A small jet cleaves the sky with 8 passengers, a flight attendant, and a pilot aboard. The cabin hums with uneasy conversation until one nervous passenger stares out a window at endless tree canopy where ocean should have been. She asks the flight attendant about course changes. The attendant smiles and offers a practiced line about weather diversions. It soothes no one. In the cockpit, the pilot's hands twitch. Navigation and radio systems die without warning. He bangs at switches, radio static. Instruments go mute. And then the fuel gauge slides toward empty. He realizes with cold clarity that the plane is going down. He sends a short, trembling message to his girlfriend. Goodbye. The plane tilts. Passengers scream. Somehow the pilot pulls back enough to bring them down in a forest clearing. Metal buckles. Panels tear away. Trees claim pieces of fuselage. The flight attendant is the only casualty on impact. The rest walk away with cuts and shock. Zach rushes to the cockpit with Kevin at his shoulder. They find the pilot unconscious, a branch lodged in his torso. Kevin, quick and methodical, yanks the wood free. Carlos pries a warped door open. An engine hisses flames. Sonia lobs a fire extinguisher at the blaze and fights the heat while Carlos disappears with his duffel, insisting it holds something he can't leave behind. Zach and Kevin haul the wounded pilot out onto the grass. He's alive but critical. Kevin tries to call help. No signal. The reality sets in. They are alone, somewhere a phone cannot find. Inside the wreck, Lisa stays by her new husband, Travis, confident the government will send help. Dan and Amy cling to each other, honeymooners pulled from a dream into survival. They move to lay the flight attendant's body gently aside. Dan blocks Amy's eyes. Amy notices someone moving between the trees, a silhouette that dissolves into trunks. She says nothing. They take stock. Food, water, first aid, small inventories that suddenly feel like lifelines. The pilot wakes long enough to tell them the impossible. Fuel vanished, radios died. No one will trace their coordinates. He speaks of a presence he'd seen through the trees before systems failed. The cabin fills with questions. Malfunction or design? Introductions become a way to steady nerves. Zach explains he investigates insurance fraud. Amy and Dan announce their honeymoon. Lisa and Travis, hotel owners. Sonia offers she loves travel but declines to name a job. Later she admits she's a photojournalist who follows refugee routes. Carlos claims he's a wrestler traveling to a tournament. Kevin surprises everyone. He's a medical sales rep who once practiced medicine. When they beg him to operate with the plane's meager supplies, he does what he can. He stabilizes the pilot overnight. Night falls and a shadow moves through the wreckage. When morning comes, the pilot is dead. Kevin, crushed, assumes the wound reopened. The group lays another body beside the flight attendant. As they carry the pilot out, his phone slips free. Dan pockets it under the pretense of checking reception. Amy sees him slip away. Later, Dan severs the pilot's finger to unlock the phone. He hopes to plunder bank accounts. The passcode stops him. He hides his failure. Lisa studies the pilot's face. She says he was suffocated, lips purplish. A hand over the mouth instead of infection. Suspicion blooms. Someone among them killed the pilot. The camp of survivors tightens like a ring. The GPS device recovered from the wreck is found broken. Carlos, who knows electronics, says it can be repaired but they'll need altitude for a signal. The next day they will climb the mountain. A small theft seethes at the edges. Travis's heart medication vanishes. Lisa panics. She believes someone will stop them from hunting and let them starve. Sonia catches a thief at the refrigerator, food gone. She's quiet about the thief's identity, but the seed of distrust takes hold. They forage the forest. Kevin nearly picks a poisonous mushroom. Sonia stops him with the surety of someone who's lived at borders and learned how the land keeps secrets. Dan finds a still pond. A shoe tossed and disappears, yanked by vicious fish. Gunshots from the trees announce that Travis has used his rifle to secure a carcass. That night, around a fire, Carlos reveals the thing he treasures most. A wrestling mask, identity wrapped in fabric. Pride and fear share the embers. Under cover of smoke, someone slips through the wreckage and retrieves a hidden satellite phone. It's the same night a whispering call is made. The voice on the other end belongs to Marlo. Marlo's name in a message from the pilot ties the events to the woman now watching the military camp. The murders begin in earnest. Whatever sparked paranoia becomes carnage. Carlos is found dead the next morning, stabbed and abandoned like an offering. Amy sees a figure and, in a panicked blur, plunges a stick into what she believes is the intruder, only to find she has wounded Dan. The group convulses with accusation. Dan defends Amy, revealing she has a history of trauma, hallucinations born from a childhood shooting. He explains why she sometimes sees things that aren't there. The group is not reassured. They climb the mountain to fix the GPS. Sonia slips. Kevin catches her. Hands grasp, breath catches. They install the device high on the ridge and for a moment they taste rescue. Back at the wreck, the night brings a new silenced body. Carlos, now impossible to ignore. A pattern forms. The murders are precise, predatory, and always timed to unbalance the group. Claire, Zach's wife, shows up at the airline's office with an aviation investigator to demand answers from Marlo, the owner of the plane. Marlo is cold, evasive, an owner who speaks like a woman whose calendar is full of lawyers. Claire leaves with suspicion lodged like a stone in her throat. In the jungle, tempers fracture. Kevin accuses Dan after recognizing a prison tattoo on Dan's back. Dan admits past crimes, impersonation, fraud, and that he served time. The confession eases some suspicion but does not erase fear. Lisa reports missing ammunition. One bullet remains. She claims someone is preventing them from hunting. Trust dissolves further. Inside the fuselage they find a cache of illegal drugs tucked into the plane's hollowed structure. The discovery of contraband changes the terms of everything. This may not have been an accident. Someone used the airline as a cover. Motive sharpens around greed and rescue. Chaos accelerates. Amy, panicked by a figure calling to her, runs into the trees and collides with Dan. They argue, secrets spill. Dan once posed as many different men to survive. He had hoped to build a new life. Amy finds his business cards layers of personas. Trust crumbles. That night, someone wearing Carlos's wrestling mask stabs him to death in his shelter. The next morning the group finds his absence and fears the worst. They split into parties to search, returning only to be confronted with horror. Dan's body, his face eaten away by waterborne fish, arranged to suggest he was shot and then lost to the lake. Amy stands over him, blood on her hands. The group seizes on her history and her presence with Dan and begins to doubt her again. Dan says she's not a killer. He defends her with the desperation of a man who loves. Sonia examines Carlos and notes that the wound used the same blade as Travis's knife. Impossible patterns become fact. Suspicion becomes accusation. Someone planted Zach's gun, a satellite phone, and even his ID among his things. Sonia finds the items and accuses Zach of being the murderer. Zach protests. He reveals that he's an undercover narcotics investigator who was riding the flight to follow a tip. The airline was a route for smuggling. But the evidence ammo phone makes him look guilty. Dan knocks Zach out. They tie him to a tree and debate torture as interrogation. Kevin, pressured, beats Zach in a scene that strips the air from the jungle. Sonia doesn't watch. She frees Zach in secret, cutting his bonds and sending him off to find help. Her mercy is a quiet gamble. When Dan and Amy split to head alone, Kevin refuses to go with Sonia unless she gives him Zach's weapon. She refuses. He storms off, a man who's had enough of being unsure. The mountain sends fog and then a gunshot. Kevin is found beside a lake, drowned and devoured, his face eaten away by fish. The scene reveals another terrible thing. The killer is methodical, wants bodies unrecognizable. Silence becomes the killer's ally. At night, the assassin calls Marlowe on the satellite phone. Marlowe listens. They coordinate. Marlowe's role, once opaque, begins to look like a link. A woman with power and secrets on the other end of a line. Zach and Sonia climb the mountain and find Cloud and Cold. Sonia moves to gather wood. A masked figure strikes her down from behind. Zach hears the thud and turns just as the killer steps into the open carrying the rifle. He asks why. The killer answers with bullets. Zach falls from the ridge. Sonia wakes and begs the killer to remove the mask. He does and then kills her, too. The summit becomes a shallow grave for hope. The rescue team finally reaches them the next day. They find 9 bodies arranged together in a slow, brutal geometry. 10 passengers left the sky. Only 9 bodies return. That missing body is the most suspicious absence of all. Back at the base, Claire is told the recovery operation found 9 corpses. The search for a missing passenger continues. The commander orders a forensic exam. Marlowe, playing both victim and proprietor, arrives at the camp to push for identification insistent. Hurried. She intercepts the forensic doctor on the road with a practiced plea for help, and then kills her. The scene at the morgue explodes into chaos as a bomb detonates. Smoke and flames swallow the building. Marlowe enters the morgue with a soldier and finds one of the bodies stirring. A hand grabs a knife, the zipper of a bag. A mouth breathes. Kevin, hidden among the dead, is alive. Inside the morgue, Kevin attacks the guard, then unzips the corpses, revealing what he hid inside them. Pellets of fuel and, worse, contraband. Kevin and Marlowe, now revealed as his partner, set the morgue on fire, extract the drugs, and vanish into the confusion. When Claire arrives at the morgue to identify her husband, the blast detonates between them. Marlowe and Kevin drive away in smoke, the perfect thieves who used death as their cover. But the jungle keeps one secret still. Zach, bruised, broken, dying, survived. He catches a rescue helicopter's eye by reflecting sunlight through sunglasses in a desperate flare. Men in rotors pick him up. In the hospital, Zach tells his wife everything. The missing body from the morgue confirmed Kevin's disappearance. Zach lays out the scheme. The pilot and Kevin were partners in a drug smuggling ring. The pilot made a mistake. The crash forced Kevin to improvise. Kevin killed the pilot to silence him, sabotaged the GPS so rescue could not reach them quickly, then turned paranoia into murder. He picked them off, staged scenes, used stolen medication, and staged bodies to mask identity. The satellite phone was his line to Marlowe, who helped launder the contraband through the military's confusion. He dressed as a corpse, rode with the dead, and then slipped free in the morgue to collect the drugs. At home, Kevin laughs over breakfast with Marlowe. Call her Marlowe, no longer a bystander but an accomplice, recounting the quiet cruelty of their plan. He tells her too, in casual cruelty, that he poisoned her with mushrooms for her own infidelity. Then he strides away to catch a flight that will take the drugs to their buyers. As he taxis down the runway, a figure runs across the tarmac. Zach, sputtering, firing a shot at the plane. Kevin sees that shot splash across his cargo bay, a great iron vein tearing fuel. Panic replaces the smile. The plane staggers, the engine fails. It dives. The sky that birthed their plan takes it back. The aircraft slams into the same jungle and goes dark. The series closes on the crash's echo, a circular ruin of metal, fire, and the same trees that once welcomed them as a last refuge. The cunning plan unravels not in an interrogation room, but against the indifferent geometry of the land. If you like this story, please like the video, subscribe for more cinematic mysteries, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Who did you suspect first? Thanks for watching.